Oh god, is this another zombie apocalypse survival game, and is this video 20 minutes long? Well, yes it is, you redneck survivalists, but it is 40 hours of gameplay. This is So there are three modes to play: single player, multiplayer and scenario, where you scrap against waves of Zeds, and I chose single player of course. Then you customise your character, so I went for the modern streetwear hillbilly look. Post that is a tutorial which naturally leads you through things like a simpleton, click this, waggle that. Moving on, I then picked a starter spawn because why deny what I was. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you like pointless dry wit, sometimes easing the burden of your day. When I spawned in, I immediately set about looting my surroundings, which consisted of not just crisp packets but even some useful tools, which I wasn't going to ignore. Starter spawn was true to its very description. With only an improvised backpack, it took but a few minutes to realise that carrying capacity was going to be an ongoing headache in this game. Pocket stuffed full, I set off to explore, and while admiring the clean Unreal Engine graphics, I came across a little blue car, which to my annoyance, I couldn't get started, no matter which side I got in on. That is rather strange, isn't it? It did have a boot, that is trunk for my American friends, which was nice, but was missing some essential vehicle parts, hence the inability to start. Close by I found a car battery, so I nabbed that and then slotted that in. I continued looting and used the car trunk, as extra storage as a good ass has many uses. Then, while the weather was nice, I set off again and looked at the map. Yes, there was a lot to explore, and I noticed a green circle marked radio tower, clearly something they did not want us to go to. It also turned out that cars had alarms, who knew, and popping the trunk set them off, and these attracted Zeds from far away, but there was a win in that they were easily distracted, and I saw one chasing a rabbit. And for your viewing pleasure here, I give you a close-up of what hitting a Zed actually looks like, just because I can. And in between the looting of the cars, I tested my bow out. And it turned out I was Robin Hood. I could take Zeds' heads off easily. I was the sniper bowman. Some apparently wrecked cars were possible to drive and scavenge for parts. If I wasn't always getting interrupted, that is, and to maintain the peace, I welded my wood with some vigour, as my girlfriend will tell you. And then with relentless drive, not car-wise of course, I continued my jog north. Eventually I found a garage with a 4x4 in it, which is better than a 3x3, and it had a standard security guards posted around it, who duly ate my woody. The 4x4 needed parts, so I started the mopping up exercise, showing fine wood skills, with pointless, poorly aimed blows, but one might say very fine bow skills. Now, the game does have challenges to complete, and if you care to look at these, that is, but who really cares about those? Not me, but here they are anyway. And it has skills you can unlock. When you get enough experience points, you will level up and get a skill point. Groundbreaking stuff right there. Now, I will be honest, despite having a map and a character marker, I did often find myself running the wrong way. I was not an orienteer, and on my wanders I did see some pretty cool Zeds in hazmat suits. I like that. I was finding good gear, but I had no place to put it all, which was a problem, but I kept exploring and then saw that you could craft basics from your inventory. This was good to know and would be frequently used in the future. I then unlocked my first skill and chose lockpicking, as that seemed pretty sensible. There was still much map to explore, and I knew I needed to set up a small base as a launching pad for further exploration, so I picked the house beside the 4x4 and used its cupboards to help hold stuff I had gathered, and then set about making a campfire and cooked some meat, because I heard this provides good protein. Now, the 4x4 also had tons of storage, so was going to be my go-to. I continued to explore and found in the back of an ambulance painkillers and a medkit, basics for a survivalist, and close by I also found a gas canister. I continued to explore even during the night, taking out the wandering Zeds and Z-dogs with relative ease, with my head seeking arrows backed up by my trusty fire axe. Oh, the good old DayZ days of the fire station, I remember them fondly. And I found a gas station nearby, a gas canister I should say, and some other bits and pieces, and these were good scores all around. Next up was my first fatty Zed. His strength and cardio were excellent, as it took numerous blows to bring the big boy down. Also, if you can time it right, you can one-shot the Zeds, popping their heads like a zit. Now, many doors and car boots are locked, so lock picking will occur often, but it only gets you into a car boot. It does not disable the alarm. I did notice that hats and tops and clothing have warmth ratings, and all clothing has a quality level. Pick wisely and swap out better clothes with your damaged ones routinely. And I will say it again, the loot was being found, but I just couldn't carry it. But I returned to my blue high-end sports car, slotted in the remaining parts, hopped in, and got it moving. Let's just say wilderness terrain was no problem as I navigated up towards my 4x4. Now don't forget to check out the inbuilt survival guide where answers to the basic issues can be found. It is quite useful. And then I stripped my blue sports and got my 4x4 up and running. But before taking it out, I explored some nearby houses and practiced with my pump action shotgun. Now honestly, the gunplay was surprisingly good, with bullets spread and penetration with the shotty. I looted the houses and collected the toilet water, and as a small hint, in a pinch you can stoke up fireplaces and use them to boil and cook things. And it was here that the game took an interesting turn. I heard a sound and then a Zed ran into the house, and this Zed took some beating down. I honestly did actually think it was a Zed, and I didn't notice a particular pop-up. I didn't notice this. Not noticing that, I went on my way, not knowing that I was not alone here and that other survivors roamed these lands. Anyway, I got the 4x4 running and it felt good and I felt powerful. And finally I felt ready to explore the map. The handling of the car felt a little spongy, but it wasn't too bad. It was better than I expected. And as I drove on, I often had to navigate around Zeds, like me walking through a crowd of my fans. There was more than I thought, at times a lot more. This place felt infested, and unlike crabs, it felt nice. I settled on a base, a homey home just outside a small village. As soon as I saw it, I knew it was where I'd raise my family, but more importantly, it was relatively central, so a great launch pad for future adventures. I tenderly prized the lock and stepped over the threshold like a married couple. Except I was on my own and used the toilet. Well, I took its dirty water and then used my home's cupboards as storage. Wood was needed, so trees were, of course, chopped. And then a campfire was made and water was boiled. Using the emote key Z, I slept the sleep of the dead, which in this case didn't involve moaning and wandering. And in the morning I headed out to explore some houses nearby. I took out some Zeds, and then looted up, finding a brown winter jacket which gave a very high warmth rating, so I grabbed this, and I then watched as a Zed broke down the front door. Nice stuff that, but it probably shouldn't have come in. Now the Zeds can give you a fright from time to time as they burst out of houses, but overall they are generally quite manageable. The The warm winter jacket I had on was making me rather hot, giving me some overheating problems, and very stupidly I swapped it out for a hoodie. I didn't know that the winter jacket was an essential item and pretty unique, and I deeply regret this soon, as in particular I forgot where I had stashed it later, such is the way of the noob. Soon after I had another heart attack as a Z hurled itself out of a window. But they are a little clumsy, and the breaking of window of course keeps drawing more Zs to me. But then it was time for another skill unlock, and I chose Head Smasher, as I was doing a lot of that. As I moved into the town nearby, it was getting misty, so I practiced my sneak attacks, and then soon after practiced my Michael Jackson moonwalk away from scary wolf howls. I was not up for that just yet. And of course the first snowflakes were beginning to drop. I felt like things were changing. There was time for another sneak attack before the snow came in, and it came in big time, and of course I was now freezing. I hid inside a laundromat as the storm settled in, but there was nothing to do, really. Nothing to do but to wait it out, especially as a wolfie was out there as well. So I waited. I waited as long as my impatient gamer self would allow, and then eventually I just set out again. And when I got back to the base, I chopped down some more trees. I sorted out my storage, filled up a 4x4, and then set off to hunt some deer for meat, avoiding Zeds so as not to damage the car. And I guess it wouldn't be a survival game if you didn't do something stupid, and mine was, whilst chasing a deer for some distance across the wilderness, I got totally disorientated, and then I couldn't find my 4x4. Remember, survivors, to mark your map. I searched for probably 45 minutes for it, and I was pretty pissed off at myself and have given up all hope when I spotted a deer, shot it, moved in to slaughter it, and wait for it. I can tell you I was super happy to see that, because I did not fancy going through that grind of finding a vehicle again. Taking my 4x4 home, I warmed up by the campfire and cooked up some meat. I eventually chopped more trees down, and then, of course, crafted my first storage cupboard. It was a very good feeling to see all these slots that needed to be filled, so I started filling them. And despite the storm, more wood was needed. Then I laid some animal traps down on the ground, and don't forget to bait them, my friends, like I did, and then back to chopping trees. And I then noticed I'd developed a cough. Maybe I wouldn't have had that if I had my lovely winter jacket, which I had no idea where it was. Anyway, I couldn't find water from lakes, waste of time there, and even though the fire was toasty warm, it turned out Zeds can hear a slight cough a mile away. The Zeds' joyful pastime of throwing themselves through windows extended to my base, which didn't help one little bit with security. I'd need to board those up soon, and the rotting bastards just kept on piling and coming on in. So I lured them outside, and despite the open door, some insisted of diving through those windows right beside it. You have to admire their playfulness. But then it was back to warming up. And by the way, you take cough syrup to get rid of that nasty cough, and you will find that in medical loot spots. And don't forget to enjoy the graffiti dotted around it, can be philosophical. When the weather was better, I took some time again to go hunting. It was strangely satisfying. Joe Rogan would have been pretty pleased. And in a southern town, I spotted a gas station and marked it for a future return. I needed gas relentlessly and endlessly, it seemed like. Whilst later cooking peacefully at base, this then happened. Yes, my earlier inattention left me totally, and I mean totally, surprised to have bandits walk into my base and gun me down. As you will see, my inept flailing of the bat had no effect at all, and after I respawned, I sprinted towards my base in the pitch black, and let's just say that ended badly. Eventually I did get back to my base and found my loot on the ground. That was a relief. So I was not alone here, and shortly after, when on another foray, I saw another survivor running across the town, and now none would be given any leeway. But this poor unarmed sucker was only good as a football apparently. And after clearing out more Zeds, I got to siphoning some gas out of the fuel pumps. It was much needed. Just put the empty can in, press a button, and it is all done. Now storage was still a major problem, so I continued the expansion of cupboards and boxes and started to fortify my base. No more bandits just were going to walk in. And then I unlocked some more skills. And as I was now building, I needed materials like scrap metal, found by bashing these cars to pieces. They will provide not just scrap, but sheet metal and sometimes other things. Now many doors are locked, but don't forget you can just smash a window if you don't mind the attention it will bring, which is normally manageable. I also tried out a Molotov, which are easily made, and it turns out that these are pretty effective. However, things can get tense when a wandering horde turns up, and sometimes it is just simply best to run away and fight again another day. Always keep your 4x4 handy and all fueled up so you can take off if you need to. And remember to avoid the Zeds. They cause quite a lot of damage to your car. Shortly after, while scavenging a farm, I came across more bandits. And let's be honest, my dodging was next level. And my gunplay was ferocious. And my dying was predictable. Bandits 2, Matty 0. 10 minutes later, loot retrieved, and then the moment that changed my life forever. What was this? I assumed it could be a dog I could tame, a German Shepherd. Well, it looked friendly enough, so I threw some raw meat on the ground and... yes, I had a dog companion, which by using my emote keys and then scrolling the mouse wheel I could control him. Let's call him Fido, and let's call him a he, shall we? Next up was the radio tower, so I fought my way to it in the middle of the night for recording purposes. Yes, I know I'm a moron. And at the radio tower, certain things needed to be put in to get it going. I had no idea what a radio receiver was. But the bandits found me again, and I ate several rounds. Thank God I'd found a military vest earlier, so I fought back from the brink of death and evened up the score a little bit. Now they even tried to kill Fido, which forced my hand further. Death to the bandits. Unfortunately, they did have some good loot on them. But they were pretty cheeky, that bunch, and they even started to shoot at my truck. And enough was enough. It was time that they learned who the boss was. The tactic was pretty simple. Shoot them with a shotty. Genius, really. They were going to learn the hard way, apparently. Back at the gas station, I filled up the gas cans. I'd need all that gas, as my 4x4 was indeed a guzzler. And then while searching a nearby town, this happened. It was my biggest gun battle to date. It was total chaos, because I'd apparently upset a nearby hornet's nest. Using my AK-47, I unleashed round after round as Fido set upon them. But I couldn't get over the wall, so I was trapped, so I was going to have to fight my way out, with Fido savaging them at close range. There was no going back now, so I pressed my advantage and found their nest close by. I carried out a frontal assault with a precise Molotov throw and shooting. Stories would be told of the man randomly hitting the ground in a gun battle. Inside the supermarket, I found the camera angle was frankly shocking, as I couldn't see who was shooting at me. That definitely needs fixing, but thank God that my one-dog cruise missile was ripping the bandits' new ones with reckless abandon. That was 2 words of abandon there, wasn't it? But we'll just run with it. Fido was more than a companion, he was a lethal thing in this apocalypse. I stole some of the gear, then headed home to start building a wall around my base. I spent ages ferrying logs backwards and forth, but it was all worth it. I also say there was tons to loot and see, and I'm not sure I could get to it all, but Fido was proving that his bite was ferocious. With my base secured, totally surrounded by a wall, we could soon see how all this was going to fare. The first horde that turned up, I lured them away by setting myself on fire and picking them off in classic zombie train fashion. I used their military marching order to practice my shooting, headshots or nothing, and not long after some bandits turned up, and it turned out if they couldn't see me they just walked around. They started patrolling my base in a pretty orderly fashion, which I respected, but they needed teaching. And so they were. Then I got my CB radio set up and switched it on. I got some weird message about an agent until Jason turned up staring at me through the window. It turned out this was a food trader, which was interesting but of little use except to get rid of some crappy gear, and later on I called in a weapons trader, a bit more useful but not by much. Humanitz deserves a clap. What you see here took about 40 hours of gameplay, and with a car I explored the whole map and it was pretty enjoyable, and who doesn't love a game where you can sleep anywhere rigidly? I love that. It does have a way to go, but it shows a very solid start. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next chapter. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you got this far, you legends.